Who is Reiner Braun from Attack on Titan? Let's find out. Let's go. Reiners History. Reiner was born in Liberia, Eldian ghetto in Marley. He is from a mixed marriage between an Eldian and a Marleyan, and that is why his father left him. But that was just the beginning of his problems. His family and his mother Karina basically forced him to try to become a warrior for Marley because of their selfish goals. From here we can see the beginnings of Reiner as a tragic character. His whole life his mother deceived him, telling him that his father loves him, and he had to understand for himself that that is not the case. And he found that out as he was being deployed on his first mission to Paradis. Here we can see the first factors of Reiner's road to insanity. It is very traumatic for any child to feel resentment or not loved or even betrayed by their parents. Maybe Reiner wasn't fully realizing it, but here is where his troubles started. While training to become a warrior, he was always the worst candidate, and it seemed that only a miracle could ensure his place as a warrior. And then a miracle happened. Marcel, his fellow warrior, wanting to save his brother Porco from becoming another Titan, lied to army generals of Marley and pushed Reiner to become the next armor Titan. Young warriors had a mission to go to Paradis and retrieve the founding Titan. On their way there, Reiner is attacked by a mindless Titan, which, as we all know, was Ymir. Marcel, dealing with his own sense of guilt because he pushed Reiner to become a warrior, dives headfirst and saves Reiner from being eaten by a Titan, losing his life in the process. This is the second big moment in Reiner's path to insanity. Not only did he realize that his only real achievement in his life, that is becoming a warrior, was not through his own merits, it was false, he now also has to carry the guilt of Marcel being killed because of his incompetence. Annie and Bertoldo wanted to abort the mission right then and there, but Reiner insisted that the mission goes on. Had they returned to Liberia at that point, Reiner would have surely been stripped of his armored Titan. That is why they continue with the mission and break the wall in Shigashina. With this, Reiner becomes directly responsible for all the tragedies that occurred inside the walls. Reiner's story. In the story, we meet Reiner few years after the fall of Wall Maria. He joins the military of Paradis because they want to find the royal family and the founding Titan, unaware that Grisha already stole the founding Titan and transferred it to Eren. While training to become a soldier, he becomes, to other cadets, the very thing he could never be while he was young. He becomes dependable, an older brother, and a great support for his comrades. Even Porco notes that Reiner behaved a lot like Marcel while he was on Paradis Island. Reiner even helps out Eren during their training, because in Eren he saw a younger and weaker self. Here we can see a rapid deterioration in Reiner's psyche, and he becomes too close with his enemies, wanting to be Marcel for all of them. Here we can see the development of Reiner's split personality disorder because of guilt and other issues. After their training was finished, Annie, Bertoldo, and Reiner decide to breach the other wall, Rose, because their search for the royal family was still fruitless. This, in the end, resulted in the deaths of many people and soldiers. And here the death of Marco Bot was by far the most influential. For a more detailed dive into the incident concerning Marco Bot, I would suggest you watch our video where we cover exactly that event. But basically that's the moment when Reiner finally cracks under pressure. The death of Marco Bot is a perfect showcase for us, the viewers and readers, that Reiner actually lost his mind. The feeling of guilt that Reiner somehow managed to suppressed up until that point now start to explode within him. Murdering someone who depended on you and looked up to you was too much for Reiner to handle. Reiner has been wearing a lot of masks during his lifetime, and the thing that is definitely clear is that when he was playing older brother in the military of Paradis, that was when he was at his most happiest. This kind of scenario, where Reiner was happy because he was strong, able, and needed, was especially devastating for him, because all of those feelings, representing his true happiness, were false. It turns out that the only time when Reiner was at his happiest and when he was able to be what he truly wanted to be was in a situation that absolutely demanded of him to not be what he truly is, which is a warrior for Marley. Such dichotomy and a drastic contrast, mixed with the feelings of not being loved by his father and used by his mother, and we can pile on the guilt he felt for the death of Marcel and Marco Bot. All these things influenced Reiner, and he developed a severe psychological illness. A split personality. I honestly believe that Reiner is a good and true person who was forced to be bad and untrue. Immediately after the battle at the Castle Utgard, where Reiner risked his life to save his comrades, again, he completely snaps under pressure. After the death of Marco, Reiner starts to take greater risks in order to protect his friends, and doing it more often and more carelessly. In one instance, he even saves Connie from certain death. Reiner does this because he is still troubled by guilt and his wishes to be something he could never be as a kid. Further shocking reveals concerning Ymir definitely put him over the edge, and at this point it is kind of obvious that Reiner has had enough. What follows is one of the best anime betrayal scenes we have ever seen, and maybe in anime as a whole, and that is the reveal that Reiner and Bertolto were Titans all along. The rest of the Corps already had their doubts, but Reiner's psyche just couldn't hold on anymore. He couldn't bear to live with the hypocrisy and lies that were forced upon him in this mission. We also covered this moment in a previous video in greater detail. This could be called the culmination of Reiner's road to insanity. All previous factors broke Reiner, and he decides to come clean, to ease his poor soul of guilt, and he finally becomes honest and true to himself and to his mission. By that point, it was obvious that the founding titan was in Eren, and Reiner and Bertolto tried to make a run for it with him and Ymir, leaving Annie behind. The scenes in the forest, where Reiner, Bertolto, Ymir, and Eren are talking, are the best showcase of just how much Reiner has been losing his mind, and how much the guilt and pain and the fact that he is a traitor influenced his poor mind. Here we see just how much Reiner suffered, and how seriously disturbed he is. He is daydreaming about getting promoted in the army of Paradis. He is daydreaming about Historia and his future on the island, which is very inappropriate in that moment, to say the least. It is clear at this point that he has difficulties discerning what is real and what is imaginary. He just cannot separate the warrior and the scout in his soul. It is worth noting that Annie and Bertolto were sharing exactly the same burden as him, but he was the only one that cracked under pressure, which is a great tell of what Reiner's true personality really is. And that is, he is an honorable and good person. In the battle that follows, Eren uses the coordinate for the first time, also a moment we covered in our previous video. Suffice it to say that Reiner's remark that Eren is the worst possible person in the world to get the power of the founding titan was absolutely correct. especially when you take into account what happens at the end of the story. Reiner, Ymir, and Bertoldo somehow manage to escape that battle. There we have a minor time skip, and Bertoldo and Reiner meet Zeke, and they have a confrontation, whether they should be saving Annie as a new priority of their mission, or whether they should find Eren and capture the coordinates. Zeke beats Reiner into the ground, and the new priorities are set. That brings us into the next arc, Return to Shigashina, where Reiner, Zeke, and Bertoldo set up a trap for the Scouting Corps in Shigashina. Here we can witness another glorious Reiner moment, and that is when he transfers his consciousness into his ass in order to survive. Truly an ass pull if we have ever seen one in anime. This whole battle is basically a death march for Reiner. He is able to achieve basically nothing, and he keeps failing. It is clear that the factors leading up to this point and traumatic events made our armored titan the weakest titan of them all. Definitely unfit to be a warrior. After some pretty epic battle scenes, Mikasa uses a Thunder Spear and sends Reiner flying out of his titan. Truly an awesome Mikasa moment. Reiner gives the scouts a letter from Ymir for Historia, and after that gets saved by Best Girl Peak. Zeke said it best, Reiner, you are one lucky bastard. After they return to Liberio, Reiner almost loses his titan, but with hard work and being diligent on the battlefield, he regains the confidence of his superiors and also even gets promoted. But by that time, Reiner's psychological problems have seriously set in, not being able to deal with the guilt, and with the general PTSD from his battlefield experiences, what was once the older brother of the whole crew now became a suicidal wreck, a person begging to die. Reiner's complex psychological issues had plenty of time to grow and mature, which they did during the time skip, and now they started manifesting. Still riddled with memories of the island, and with who knows how many new traumas from the battlefields, Reiner seriously contemplates killing himself, and he attempts it. For someone who has an honest and pure soul, such as Reiner has, the weight of all the guilt, combined with the feeling of betrayal he feels from his family, just became too much for him to handle. The straw that broke the camel's back definitely was him realizing that the cycle of insanity will continue, when he saw that Gabby will in all likelihood inherit his titan. This also undoubtedly fuels his guilt even more. Something we can clearly see in his little talk with Falco, when he begs of him to save Gabby. Reiner might have succeeded in his attempt at suicide were it not for Falco, and him randomly stumbling by and stopping Reiner. Reiner decides to continue living on, at least for a little bit more, because of the new warrior candidates. Reiner truly cares for them, and in them he sees himself and his crew when he was young. These kinds of scenes showcase the development of Reiner's character perfectly, and it develops his character in a way few people could have predicted, especially because of the way he was developed at the beginning of the story. That will make the events that follow struck an even stronger chord with us, the viewers. Falco lures Reiner into a basement, not even knowing that Uncle Kruger is actually Eren Yeager, the founding titan. What follows are truly Kino scenes. Scenes we get maybe once in a generation of anime. Meeting between Eren and Reiner 4 years after what happened on Paradise Island. Here we further develop Reiner, and he admits in tears to Eren all the things that happened to him over the years. He begs Eren for forgiveness, and desperately wants to escape his guilt. Here, Reiner can finally talk freely, talk honestly, something he could not do ever since he was last on Paradise. I just followed orders is a stereotypical excuse of old soldiers, but here it is so honestly put and it is so believable that it is very difficult to doubt Reiner's words. Him being shocked for seeing Eren, followed by the sweet relief of confession, is too much for anyone's psyche to really handle, especially a troubled one like Reiner's. Reiner and Eren are so much alike, and yet, in this situation, Reiner is the one begging for forgiveness. It is little wonder that he needed all that downtime before he finally got up in his Titan and fought Eren. A lesser man wouldn't even get up at all. This is also the first time that we draw parallels between Eren and Reiner, and that they are just two sides of a same twisted coin. They just want to save the world, or whatever the word world means to them. Eren transforms, and the battle in Liberia starts. Reiner is out of the battle. Well, at least until Gabi manages to call out to him. In the following battle, Reiner loses yet again, but at least saves Porco from Eren. Next time when we encounter Reiner, that is when Marley attacks Paradise Island. An attack that was forced by Reiner to happen as soon as possible, especially after they understood that Zeke betrayed them. Zeke's betrayal apparently has little effect on Reiner. Porco and Peak and even Maggot seem much more shocked and traumatized by this development. This is probably because in Reiner's mind, he really has no right to hate a traitor. The goal of Marleyan attackers is to eat Eren at all costs before he manages to meet Zeke. It is about this point where anime has left off. And if you're anime only, from this point on, there will be manga spoilers. Be warned. Reiner and Eren start their epic battle, but he simply cannot do anything against Eren, who has a Warhammer Titan inside him. Reiner was even prepared to give his own life in order to save young Falco, once he understood that Zeke turned him into a mindless Titan. But he failed there as well. Porco, knowing that this was something that Marcel would surely do, never gave Reiner the pleasure of doing it, and he didn't want to give the Reiner the satisfaction of actually dying. In a desperate attempt, the last thing Reiner wants is to do justice by Marcel, but he is denied even that by Porco in a one fell swoop. Porco takes redemption and sweet release of that right out of Reiner's mouth. After many desperate attempts, ultimately Reiner fails, and the Jaeger brothers come into contact. The rumbling commences. Reiner's armor dissolves, and he saves Gabi but gets hurt with the debris of the falling walls. Exhausted after the battle, Gabi leaves him to recuperate in an abandoned building. After resting and undoubtedly dreaming dreams of joy, he is very rudely woken up by Annie, and we get a beautiful shot of Reiner being confused, shocked, at the sight of Annie and his former comrades and enemies together, waking him up and telling him, "Let's go, Reiner, it's time to save the world." After that, in the downtime, we get several very interesting conversations between Reiner, Annie, and the rest of the scouting corps. Here, Reiner takes full responsibility for the death of Marco Bot, and he even gets punched in the face for it. But alas, they were just following orders. Here we can see a rushed conclusion to Reiner's problems, mostly because Isayama either had no time or no will to write a proper and satisfying ending. But okay, at least they somewhat cleared the air between them. It is a general consensus between fans that these scenes, confrontations between former allies, former enemies, and now friends, needed to be more fleshed out. And they had to have more screen time in the story. But we got more Gabi, I guess, so it evens out. But the story goes on. Reiner and the crew need to take the airplane out of Flock's hands. And they actually do that. And we get several really cool fighting scenes where the armored titan is fighting side by side with the female titan. Worth noting is the fact that both him and Annie offered to fight instead of the scouting corps, because they wanted to spare the corps from killing their former allies. This further showcases the way Reiner thinks, and how pure and noble he truly is inside. But Reiner and the crew manage to take the plane and escape. After that, he apologizes to Annie for not aborting the mission in the very beginning when Marcel was eaten. Annie confesses that she was dreaming of killing Reiner many times, and Reiner thanks her for not actually doing it. At this point in the story, Reiner was probably pulled into the past by Eren to have a little talk. After which, Eren wipes his memories clean. We don't know any details about this conversation, but at least we get Reiner's final conclusion. Eren, you're such a great man. In tears, by the way. After that, on the ship, Connie and Jean apologize to Reiner, because at that point, both Connie and Jean murdered their own former allies. And at that point, line separating Reiner and them was pretty slim. This reminds poor Reiner of the basement scene and Eren, and makes him realize how similar they all really are. I think it is at this point when Reiner actually understands what Eren was trying to tell him, that they are all the same. After that, we get the final battle with Eren's Dino Titan thing. Eren summons the previous Titans to fight for him. This scene is truly epic, and I can't wait to see it properly animated. Especially the scene when Reiner jumps out of the plane, transforms mid-air, and tackles Beast Titan mid-air and punches him to the ground. Beautiful, awesome. Reiner keeps fighting numerous Titans, and he even gets rescued by what seems to be Ymir's Titan. After a long battle, Jean detonates the explosives, and Armin makes a colossal nuke, after which a bizarre worm-like creature makes an appearance. It seems to want to touch and reconnect with Eren. This is where Reiner really steps in and literally fights in a most desperate situation, even when that worm transforms all the people around, including Reiner's family, into mindless titans. Luckily, Reiner is strong enough and calm enough to keep fighting to give time to Levi and Mikasa to actually finish the job by killing Eren. In the aftermath of the battle, Reiner reconciles with his mother, who seeks forgiveness from him for being so selfish and pushing him to become a warrior because of her selfish goals. This is the end of Reiner's story, and in general we can say that he got a happy end. His mom apologizes for being a bad mom. Even far from being healed, we can safely say they took a step in the right direction. In the very conclusion of the story, we see Reiner, and we see that he is well, healthy, and doing good for himself. And he is still a little bit of a perv, especially when Historia is concerned. But okay, I guess Reiner deserved to be cut some slack, even though he is a perv. Here we can finally see Reiner truly happy, in a way we haven't seen him ever since he was training with the Scouting Corps. It's as if he is relieved from the burden of being a Titan, and he can finally be friends with them, this time without lies. And thusly, our hero Reiner Braun, together with Armin and everybody else, looks into the sunset as he sails into new victories for himself and a new diplomatic mission. Why is Reiner important? Reiner is probably the most complex character in Attack on Titan. He is always shown to be in the middle of some sort of a crossroad. He is born in a marriage between an Eldian and a Marleyan. He was weak as a child, and yet he gets one of the most powerful Titans. He seems to love his friends in the Scouting Corps, and yet he is their enemy. He desperately wants to die, even though he carries a titan that is most difficult to kill. Before the time skip, Reiner is there just to push the plot forward, and he seems to be a tool to be used to develop other characters. But after the time skip, Reiner is there to be a contrast to Eren. By that time, Eren became a god of war, the bringer of doom, a bad guy. And Reiner transformed from what was basically the main antagonist into the main protagonist. He suffered probably more than any other character from Attack on Titan, and I believe that he more than deserved his happy ending. I think that the whole point of Reiner's character is that he was sheltered and confined, just like Eren. But Eren was confined physically and literally by walls, and Reiner was confined by his expectations of the world. By the time he gets to know Eldians and their perspective on things, realizing that they are not, in fact, devils, Reiner had to become the person to bridge the gap between the two societies, which is why his story was no longer about saving Paradis or saving Liberia or saving Marley. It was about saving the world. And his whole arc comes to a natural culmination in the end, when he wrestles a worm and sniffs a letter from Historia. Okay, the very ending of his arc is not that well executed, but you could say that about any ending of any characters in Attack on Titan. Reiner is noble, strong. He is a true warrior. He was born into this world to save it, to actually save it. One of the few characters we see to actually suffer because of all the misfortunes that happened to him throughout the story. And it is all showcased there into gruesome details. In the end, we can safely say that Reiner actually became Helos. And I believe, knowing that, Reiner can rest assured and have a decent night's sleep without wanting to die. I guess that's it about Reiner Braun. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Follow us on Instagram. Make sure to check out other videos on the channel. We will be making more character analysis about other characters in Attack on Titan, so stay put. That's it for this video. See you next time. Bye bye!